someone. Well, good morning.
Good morning.
And welcome to this Metro Plan Orlando CAC meeting. I'd like to go ahead and call the meeting to order. I'm Jeffrey Campbell, and I will be chairing the meeting today. This meeting is fully in person, so all members of the committee has been asked to be here present in the Metro Plan Orlando boardroom. However, we will still have virtual participation for the public. I'll ask all committee members to please speak clearly and use your microphone so that those joining us virtually can hear. It is now time for our Pledge of Allegiance, and I've asked our Vice Chair, Dr. Dan Stevens, if he would do the honors.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Dr. Stevens. There are two public comment points in our meeting. Members of the public who are here in person and would like to make a comment should submit a speaker card to Ms. Lisa Smith. Those attending on Zoom who want to speak can use the raise hand feature on the Zoom screen. We also accepted comments by email before the meeting. I'd like to start with just a recap of our May 3rd Bright Line behind the scenes vehicle maintenance facility and station tour. We had an excellent trip to those facilities. I'm sorry that some of you couldn't make it. I realize everybody has things that comes up. However, I have heard that before they start taking passenger travel, they will have a public kind of an open house. Now, I don't know if you get to see the things that we saw, which was all just fantastic. The staff here has put together some highlight photos. It's about a minute long, and they're going to share that with us. So let's watch that first. Just a few of the scenes. I have to tell you that, I was so pumped and excited about this potential tour early on. When I first took this seat, I said that was something that I wanted to see come to fruition. And quite honestly, I'm glad it did not come sooner now than later, because we would not have been able to see all the things that we got to see in the way that we did. But I was excited as I told someone, like a third grade on a day of a field trip.
Everybody was.
It was really, really special. And I want to say thank you to our liaison here for the CAC. None of the other committees have had this tour. So, and all of the staff here at Metro Plan that made this come to fruition. Fantastic. Yeah.
Thank you.
Now, what I'd like to do is ask a few of the committee members that had an opportunity to attend to just share some of their highlights and thoughts about it. So, Dr. Steve, why don't you go first?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It was a great excursion out to see the other side at transit in Central Florida. Oh my gosh, this is becoming a reality, right? So it was very impressive for those that didn't show up. That the first building that we were in is 2 football lengths long to put everything in scope. There are pits. Fortunately, nobody fell in the pits, but they're like 20 feet deep. I mean, it was big equipment. It was really cool. The people at Brightline were very accommodating. They really went all out, all the various amenities around, seeing what they're going to offer all the passengers. It was really exciting seeing this come to Central Florida. So what do you think?
Okay, Ms. Pizzo, I'd ask you.
Thank you. I can't go into all the details. I was so impressed, as you were saying, the first leg of the field trip, seeing the behind the scenes where they actually service the train and the equipment that it takes to service these trains, but the cleanliness of the area, the emphasis on safety. It gave us a little pledge to take about being good transportation, being safe there, and then going on to the next, where actually the train station is going to be. And I did not know that this train station was there before Terminal C was. So there was a lot of behind the scenes that we were learning about. I could not get Ed to commandeer the train there at the service bay. I kept saying, Ed, let's, drop the, take off at the train, but he just kind of laughed at me and walked away. But, there sat this big engine, and you walk up and, they were very accommodating, very just go and look and see and take pictures as much as you want. It was like you said, it's like being a third grader on a field trip. It's like, where's the ice cream afterwards? It was so much fun. I'm pleased to have been able to participate in it.
Mr. O'Hanlon, we know it was not electric, but are you anything positive?
Get rid of the diesel part, but anyway.
But it was exciting though, wasn't it?
It was beyond exciting. Wish for their economic success big time. The reason that base camp or the maintenance facility is so long is they are hopeful that even though the first trains are only starting with like 2 or 3 passenger cars, that it will be successful enough that they will have 10 cars on each transit up and down. And my guess is it's going to take, probably at least 5, 6, 7 to make them profitable. And, all the power to them. It is first class service. Everything is like A-class office space. You got plug-in for your laptop. You got plug-in for everything. It was phenomenal.
Now, you heard it from Mr. O'Hanlon, so. Okay, also, let's see, Mr. Peters, you were there. I know you did base camp anyway.
Yeah, I didn't go to the station, but the maintenance facility was, pretty fascinating. That was a very good tour. What I kind of paid close attention to is the safety factors that they go through with the advanced technology, because that is very, 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 very convincing and very, very good. The wheel truing, we saw how they, get the steel off the wheels to get the wheels flat. It was very, 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 very interesting. And I wish everybody had gone, to see that.
There may be another opportunity, so we'll see how they go. And I'll round it off over here with Ms. Mott, because I think you already have a profile, right?
Yeah, I do. I do. I actually have had my account since November of last year. So I've been anxiously awaiting this opportunity to actually explore. But first, I'd just like to echo what Mr. Chairman said in reference to thanking the staff and thanking Metro Plan. We really appreciate this. This was an extraordinary opportunity. And really I have a broad vocabulary, and really there are no words that I can use to sum up what this experience was like for me. I had an extraordinary time. It was quite impressive. And just even as a techie person, I was really impressed with the automation aspect of it. And I know that as we move forward, things are automated, and I just like the convenience of the electronic tickets and all the things of that nature. But I tell you, it was just amazing just to see this whole thing. And I'm just ready to ride. And I know some of our colleagues here had commented about doing a CAC trip. So, hey, I'm looking forward to making that happen. So I'm all on board. Thank you again to everybody that made this happen. That's
Mr. Spieler.
Hi, thank you. I'm sorry I wasn't able to make this tour, but I went to the Orange County Communicators Tour, which is the very next day. And it was actually very exciting to see the enthusiasm from community leaders who are all very excited from all over the region about this transit opportunity, and then also the focus on moving forward with connecting to Tampa. that was a hot topic throughout the tour. So it was really neat to see their perspective on how the community is really excited about this. Thank you.
On Brightline from this morning's paper. So it was in this morning's paper, phenomenal article. So if you could just send it out to everybody. that'd be great.
I'll share so we can get that shared around.
You texted it to me.
He sent it to me.
I sent it to you. Can you send it to me?
Okay.
They just love the service. In South Florida, it saves everybody so much time because I-95 is a conundrum.
Did I miss anyone else over here that attended? Mr. Pegram, you were there. Any comments about it?
Really appreciated that Metro plans to set it up.
Yeah.
It was great to see everyone that could make it. The model that has been adopted in South Florida with Brightline coming first and now commuter rail coming second and infilling stations seems to be a pilot for minimizing cost to the local taxpayer. So looking at, is that the strategy that we can apply for going to Tampa? I'd be interested in just learning as part of the Sunshine Working Group, what is the minimal impact to the local taxpayer with the various strategies to get from here to Tampa?
I think the whole state will be excited about this. There's clearly a public relations program coming out. They were shooting a commercial when we were there.
Yeah.
And it appeared to be a commercial that's going to be geared toward the younger adults, because I think there'll be certain groups that want to book a whole block and just have a nice ride down this. Someone mentioned stopping along the way, but even the technology connection, for example, the lounge, they mentioned that you will be able to walk in with your profile and your face will be scanned. And it will say, well, Mr. Campbell, would you like your normal rum and Coke? Or whatever the drink is of your choice. And it will make it for you. And you won't have to go into your pocket. It will just take care of it for you. So we're all really excited about it. So thank you all for joining and helping me bring that one little idea that I had to fruition. I think it's fantastic. And thank you again to everyone that worked on that.
Welcome.
Okay, moving on. At the last May Metro Plan Orlando board meeting, I shared with the board some of the CAC members' questions about public engagement as well as funding opportunities. FDOT District 5 Secretary Tyler addressed some of these issues in his presentation on the board, to the board, and said more public engagement will be happening. And I'm talking about the Sunshine Corridor project that we had a few questions on that. So I put some of those questions directly to them, and we've had a good response. There was even an email that Ms. Horn had sent out summarizing some of those questions. So if you have any questions and you hadn't seen that email, that should take care of it. Okay. And with that, I'd like to turn things over to Ms. Mary Ann Horn of Metro Plan Orlando staff for our agenda review.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, everybody attending, whether you're in the room or online, we appreciate your presence. In this format, we do need a quorum, which is now 16 members in the room to conduct votes. As always, it is very important to RSVP for our meetings so that we can prepare. We still have Zoom and YouTube options available for the public. Before I go forward, I just want to say that we do have a guest in our midst. And I would like for Mr. Davis to help me out, if he would, and introduce that person to us just briefly.
Thank you very much. Introduce my significant other, State Representative Paula Stark. The District 47, which is St. Cloud, about half of Kissimmee, and a little stretch of Orange County that's from the 417 south and kind of bordered by Foggy Creek and Meadow Woods.
That's wonderful. Thank you for being with us today. We appreciate your presence. And now I want to hand it over to Mr. Mike Wilson of our staff for our safety moment.
Thank you, Mary Ann. Good morning, everyone. Our safety moment this month is for the June Safe Teen Driving Month program, focusing on the safer people side of things. We did a little bit of digging into our Signal 4 system to look at what's going on with teen driver crashes. What's notable, so we wanted to look at, well, what's happened since COVID, right? We know that shook everything up. So we're looking at 2018 and 19 compared to 2021 and 22. And crashes overall for all ages and all levels of severity are actually down by 18%, but our fatal crashes are up, and it seems that it's teen fatal crashes that are driving that increase. Forgive that pun there. We didn't really see any specific crash types that were representative. Of course, distraction is always a concern. So here's another interesting thing that distracted driving crashes are also down overall, including for teens. If we look at all injury levels, it's just within the fatality range where we're seeing a big increase. So while there's just a general reduction in crashes, it's this very specific area of teens getting involved in distracted driving crashes that's really responsible for a significant part of our fatality increase. The Florida Teen Safe Driving Coalition has been looking into this obviously for some time, and one of the things they've noted is that when there are one or more passengers with a teenage driver, we're much more likely to see risky behavior on the part of that driver. And so that kind of leads to our takeaway for this is that, if you are a teen or if you have a teen, talk about limiting those distractions. If you see a bunch of kids piling into a car, is there a way that can be, split up into two groups? And just generally talking about the consequences for distracted driving, whatever mechanism that might entail. And then the other thing we found looking in our data was that 2/3 of our fatal teen driver crashes were occurring at night, which is disproportionate compared to other age groups. So that concludes my safety moment for this month. Thank you.
Unless we have any questions, do we have a question for Ms. Wilson?
Ms.
How
Zohan,
many of those are drugs and alcohol related?
I don't recall the percentage, but it wasn't just teens were not overrepresented when it came to drugs and alcohol, and we didn't see any increase in that.
Mr. Bobinger.
Mine's more of a comment. If you don't know, law enforcement is now cracking down on a lot of this even more. You will see, like on the 414, that you will have officers on overpasses with binoculars and radar guns. So if they're not getting you for speed, they're going to get you for distracted driving. And binoculars are videoing the driver on their cell phone, texting and whatnot, and they will pull you over and cite you. And they're getting people. FHP had 20 pickups out on 414 last week, and they were writing ticket after ticket after ticket, and they will get you. And it needs to happen. I mean, there's too many people on phones, and technology is there. So if you don't spend the money to go have Bluetooth put in your car so your phone can connect properly, you will be cited. And it's directive through Orange County Sheriff's Office, OPD, and all the local agencies.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Spiegel.
Hi, thank you. Huge concern because I have an upcoming teen. So is this mainly distracted driving is what was measured, or also other issues like street racing, or I will use a word from my generation, doing donuts,
Right,
things like that?
Again, aggressive drive that would fall under aggressive driving. Again, not a disproportionate increase or representation among that age group. This was the only thing that jumped out was distracted. Doesn't mean that it's not an issue. It's just that what we can glean from the data.
Dr. Stevens.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Playing devil's advocate, noting that, we're all very familiar with, driving and texting, driving and calling and things like that. And I'm certainly not in favor of that kind of behavior. I mean, but I do recognize that it's becoming more and more common for people to do this. So I'm wondering what we, beyond the, scope of this particular committee, we as a society, what we do to mitigate that. How do we I'm thinking along the lines of Mr. O'Hanlon over here with the automated vehicles and whatever, where that would actually be a remedy where we to be able to perfect that kind of technology That way people can text and drive all they want and the car's watching as opposed to the driver. I'm just wondering, any thoughts on how to mitigate some of these numbers?
I think we need to be asking people what would motivate them, other than making just assumptions, I mean, is it kind of the emotional impact of what the risk is, or is it more something more prosaic, that just getting, how do you get people into good habits,
Right.
We'll do one more, Mr. Peters.
Yeah, we know the problem. It's the solution. One of the things that is, seriously encouraged is education in the schools. I've preached this a long time ago that it should be more intensified, especially when you're looking at more teens. I mean, this is where kids, learn to drive. I mean, in school, and if that is, seriously taken or more seriously taken, I think that will help the situation quite a bit.
I agree. Being in a similar age group, I had a 30-hour driver education course when I was in high school, right? And how many kids are getting a course like that? And that was through the school system. How many kids are getting that type of training now? All right.
We have one more, Mr. Medina.
Yeah, just really quick, is there any, I guess, metrics being taken during these observations that include the type of cars that are being involved in these accidents?
The data is in there. It's not something we have ready access to. We could do a more in-depth analysis of that.
Reason I just ask is because I've seen recently how used cars have become way more expensive just out in the market. I've heard stories just from personal friends and colleagues how they've had to, they're for whatever reason in the need of buying a car, and they've had to maybe settle for vehicles that aren't in the best conditions, either mechanically or even some safety features. And as these prices for things like used cars keep increasing, I'm concerned if that's anything that could be impacting these numbers. So I just wanted to ask about that.
Okay, two more, and that's really it.
Mr. Chairman.
Mike, I got him. You already had a comment. You had made a comment, I think you were puzzling as to why teen drivers, it seems to be more an emphasis of why they're driving as recklessly as they are or what might be. And I think a lot has to do with the level of maturity. I mean, we were all teenagers at one time and we were in, nothing could hurt us. I did a lot of stupid things, even in my first car, which was a tank. My mother made sure of that. You look back now, you're like, how did I survive that? In my late teens, early 20s, and it goes into your early 20s. A lot of these folks are less mature. And coming off of what you had just said, yes, we no longer have vehicle inspections, and I honestly wish they would bring that back because there's cars on the road out there. It scares me to see parts just barely hanging on, and so that was pretty much just my comment.
Well, thank you. And because that actually does bring us something else I found in the data. I don't want to pile everything on, but what I found was actually that the age group of 20 to 29 had, on a per capita basis, much higher, the highest distracted driving crash rate compared to teens, much higher than more than twice as high as teens. Teens is where we're seeing the increase, but they're still actually much lower than the 20 to 29 group. I would kind of assume that teens don't have the confidence to drive as carelessly, perhaps, as their cohorts, as their peers in 20 to 29 age group.
Mr. O'Hanlon.
And Mr. Chairman, we've got a great asset in this room here. We have Mr. State Farm. Can you comment on what you're learning in your industry? Because you guys want to see all of this stuff.
Well, first of all, speed kills. Okay, I don't know how else to start out. Speed kills. Inexperience is a huge contributing factor. I watch parents bring children into my office. They sign them up as a driver within the household. And, you know, there's a difference in some of the children that comes in and they're patient and they're respectful to their parents, but I have seen some kids that I almost want to put out because they're disrespectful. Parents have bought them a brand new car and they can't wait to leave and go, you know that they're going to be calling me with a problem. Okay. You know, and then, you know, did you mention the statistics between male and female?
Well, yeah, obviously males. tend to-
There is a
yeah.
huge degree of correlation between,
Mhm.
you know, if someone had 3 children on the same day, 2 were girls and 1 was a boy, and they got them to the age of driving at 16 years old, and they bought them white Mustangs on the same day, the boy is coming back first with an issue. It's just statistically proven. It's who it is. Mhm.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. So yeah, that was more than one moment, but obviously that resonated. And I think that, you know, we had a discussion among the staff as we were preparing for this too, because we are taking this Vision Zero information very seriously, and we're talking about it a lot among ourselves. And one, I think another statistic is that we are right now in the most dangerous time for teen drivers, or just about to be there between Memorial Day and Labor Day. That this is the deadliest time when teenagers are on the road. So that's another thing. You may notice that our slides look a little different today. This is the beginning of an organization-wide graphics update that our communications team is leading. And we've been working on this for a while. In the near future, we are also going to be updating our website and our printed materials and some other things. We will keep you informed of that as we go along. We appreciate any of your comments too, as this is all new, but you will be seeing this style of the presentation slides for a while. On today's agenda, we will preview our Transportation Improvement Program, which is our 5-year work program. And you'll see this information again at our June 28th meeting before you're asked to recommend its approval. In addition, we will have a public meeting over the lunch hour on Wednesday, June 21st. And you are welcome, although not expected, to attend that virtual meeting as well. And there'll be more information coming out about that. There are no changes to the agenda as printed, and so I'll ask Ms. Lisa Smith to please call the roll.
Battler. Bobinger,
Here.
Bolton. Bosley,
Present.
Buttery. Campbell,
Present.
Central Medina,
Present.
Coleman. Colacom Maso. Cologne. Council. Davis,
Present.
El Badri. Present. Gus. Henry. Lopez. Mormon. Mott. Present. Mueller. Niesman. O'Hanlon. Pereira. Peters.
Present.
Pigram. Pizzo. Present. Ronk. Salas. Shaw. Sabilla.
Present.
Dr. Stevens.
Present.
Webster. White. Mr. Chair, that concludes the roll call, and we do have a quorum physically present.
Excellent. Thank you, Lisa. We will now hear public comments on action items. Do we have anyone online who would like to speak to any of the action items? If so, please use the raise hand function on your screen or press *9 on your phone keypad. When your name is called, the host will unmute your microphone. You will see a button pops up that says the host wants to unmute you. Accept the prompt to activate the microphone. We ask that you provide your name and address for the record and hold your comments to 2 minutes. Are there any comments at this time?
We have not received any, and there are no hands raised on the virtual side.
Okay. Do we have anyone present in the boardroom today that wish to comment on action items?
No, we don't.
Okay. Were there any written comments submitted prior to the meeting?
Mr. Chair, we did not receive any written comments prior to the meeting today.
Okay, we have two action items today. First, the approval of our minutes from the April 26th meeting. We'll ask for a motion and a second, then open the floor for discussions. Members making or seconding a motion, please state your name for the record. Now, we're looking for approval of the minutes from our April 26th meeting. They're found in tab 1. Hope you've had an opportunity to review those. Do I have a motion to approve?
Chairman, I move to approve.
Okay, thank you.
I'll second Ken Stevens.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, at this time, this is a voice vote. All approvals?
Aye.
Aye.
And opposes? Motion carries. Thank you so very much. Next, we're considering approval for an FDOT amendment to the Transportation Improvement Program. That's in tab 2. Mr. Jason Satorio of Metroplan Orlando, a new father of Metroplan Orlando staff, will give us more information. You have our attention, Mr. Satorio.
Morning, Mr. Chairman and committee members. This morning, I have a total of 4 tip amendments for you. Additional information regarding these amendments is located in tab 2 of your agendas. The first of these amendments is to add funds to a transit project within the Section 5307 grant program. In addition, we have one amendment due to increases to construction cost estimates for a safety project on West Colonial Drive, Martin Luther King Boulevard, from Pine Hills Road to Tampa Avenue. Finally, we have 2 new FDOT projects. The first of these amendments is for a traffic signal project on State Road 424 from south of Saddle Road to north of Aloha Street. And the second of these amendments is for a resurfacing project on State Road 436 from Lake Howell Road to Orange County line in Seminole County. And actually, the first of those FDOT projects is in Orange County. As I mentioned earlier, you have some additional information regarding these amendments in tab 2 of your agenda packets. With that being said, unless there are any questions, we're asking for your recommendation of approval of the amendments. Thank you.
Okay, Mrs. Satorio, thank you so much. Okay, questions for Mr. Satorio? We'll start over here. Ms. Pizzo beat you to it, so I'm going to start with her.
Just a quick question. When you say it ends at Orange County line on that resurfacing on State Road 436, do you have a crossroads where that would be?
I do not. I do not readily have it in front of me. I can look it up later and get you that information.
Mr. Pizzo. Mr. Pegram.
There we go. Sorry. Thank you, Chair. So Jason, question, when we are on State Route 50, the second project, when we're calling it a safety project, can you help provide context on what we're deeming safety? Is it safety for drivers? Is it safety for pedestrians? Is it a whole corridor safety initiative? And what the drivers may be of, is it material costs that went up or additional design standards that we're trying to adopt to, that mission 0? Just curious.
Gotcha. That's an excellent question. Possibly Jonathan with FDOT might have some additional information.
Which project are you referring to?
That's the safety project on Martin Luther King from Pine Hills Road to Tampa. Second one. Okay. We'll also send that information out after.
Any other questions over here for Mr. Satorio? We good over here? Okay, we'll move to this side. Ms. Elbadri, you're recognized.
Hey, I had a very similar question. So with regard to State Road 436, a resurfacing project, typically resurfacings are opportunity for other safety improvements. I was just wondering if this is more than just a resurfacing project. Are there going to be any other changes?
To the best of my knowledge, it's just resurfacing.
I'll speak to that. Not on this particular one, but DOT does, as you mentioned, Sarah, go through the process. They call it their smart scoping process for their resurfacing and reconstruction program. And they do look at low cost opportunities once they're going in there. Don't have the specifics on it, but I know DOT as they're scoping those resurfacings, they do go through and look at what they can accomplish, kind of the low hanging fruit while they're on corridor. So we can follow up and see what the details are on that.
Okay, anything else? Oh, Mr. Davis.
Just a general comment on resurfacing.
I've been up and down thank you, up and down the road so much lately. Our resurfacing is just horrible. It doesn't last at all. We've gone to that changed mix on the reuse of the grindings, and I don't know if that's exactly a problem, but there's just large swaths of asphalt that just pop up on these roads that we're resurfacing. It seems to me that it's just not lasting nearly as long as it once was. Maybe it's because we're putting the friction course in. I'm not sure, but our it doesn't appear like we're getting our money's worth out of resurfacing projects as far as longevity.
This your comment, right?
Yes, yes, correct.
Okay,
You want to take my real?
you're
easy
kind of
one, or
in the
you wanna
middle.
go
You're kind of in
into,
the middle, so I'll go ahead and take you, Dr. Stevens.
Mine's actually real quick here. I'm just, I'm thinking the wisdom of you're asking for us to approve more money, but we don't really know exactly what the resurfacing entails. And so I'm wondering what the wisdom is of that. It's like, basically you could just take the money and run and then say, well, we're just going to do it our own way anyway. Or should we, as a committee, say, come back with answers and then we'll give you our answer?
I think as a committee, we're comfortable. What he's bringing to us.
Not
is what's
throwing
been-
darts at you,
Yeah.
sir, and congratulations.
Yeah, I think we're perfectly fine with this. It's not, he's never gonna know everything. So I think what he's brought to us is perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Mr. O'Hanlon.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. 3 comments. First, does FDOT have any comments about road resurfacing and roads falling apart?
Do I have any comments at this time about road resurfacing? As we kind of described just a minute ago, we do have a process for this, where we come to the communities, which we just did metro plans, and reach out to municipalities and go through each project. So we just did from planning in 25 to construction in 27. We just evaluated those projects. So the previous slide, yeah, well, I'm trying to figure out what you're asking.
I'm asking if people, Florida, let's start off with the base premise, okay? Florida roads in general are phenomenal compared to the rest of the country, okay? But we have a comment there from Joel that some of this stuff is not working right. I'd like to know what changed. And maybe Joel can delineate with a text or something where these sections are that are falling apart and find out why they're falling apart, because I'd like to keep our high standard of roads that we have here in the state.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Engineers get changed product within the last 10 years. Is there anything that led to that?
Great. And
Usage
you'll be
probably
here-
has a lot to do with it as well.
Excuse me?
Usage, we got people here just using it like crazy.
And Mr. Davis, if you could provide us location examples, because sometimes, if it's done by the state, it's they're using one set of materials. If your local government is doing it, the process of filling and resurfacing could be different. So I know that the material technology has improved over the past decade, so we should be seeing longer life cycles. But to your point, yeah,
It's pretty
not
much
the
any
case.
of the limited access highways, and it is not holding up. They've changed the amount of reuse on a lot of the product. And I mean, just if you just pay attention when you're driving around, there's just large sections where there's big chunks of the repaving that is popping out and missing. I'm particularly, I guess, sensitive to it because the car that we have, it's a Corvette. It's loud and low to the ground, and it just, I mean, any little bit of, problem with the asphalt is just, you can't miss it. But if you just look, it's everywhere. It's not just here, it's everywhere.
Okay, I'm the one that raised the question. We've got a great group here. And when you're driving on roads, look at mile markers. If you can just text that in here, pass it along. I want to make sure Florida maintains its great standard. And I don't know if we're no longer doing the super pave or whatever's changed. We need to figure it out and fix it. Okay, number
We will do
2,
that.
the new slide format. I think I like it. It's nice and clean, straightforward. But on the other side of it is we've got these tip amendments. Where's the graph showing these to us? The maps. Okay, I think that's very important. So in the future, when we have these, I'd like to see the maps so we
In
can
the
see
future,
exactly.
we'll
what
try and, we'll request that we have details on it, but I have no doubt. He's bringing us what he has. to
Understand,
present to us, so
understand.
we don't shoot him down on it. Okay, at this point, there's in the back.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess I just wanted to make more of a comment regarding the State Road 50 Colonial Safety Project. I think we are talking a lot about the resurfacing project, but I think it is really important for the board for us to know exactly what safety features are being looked at, and just so we can educate ourselves, and then we can also provide that information to the community. So thank you.
Not a problem.
Okay, with that, Alex, you have a comment?
Yeah, and we can send this out. If you go to CFL Roads, it's a great resource for all FDOT state and federally funded projects. For that particular one, there's a project page, and it gives the very detailed example. And I won't read off everything there, but we can send that out to the group, but it provides the necessary details. And also relating to maps, we do have an online TAP web map viewer, and every single project that we have here is in our tip. It's just we're changing costs associated with the project. So if you ever need a visual map of where these projects are, you can go to our website, check out the TIP map viewer, zoom in and out, kind of see where they're at relative to your home in the region.
Good. All right, I don't think there's any reason we can't give our recommendation on this. Okay, so at this point, I will entertain a motion. Okay,
Second.
okay. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, again, this is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposes? Hearing none, motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Satorio. Okay, we have two presentations today. Both are previews of plans we will take up as action items at our next meeting in June. If you have a question for the presenter, please stand your nameplate on the end, and we will call on those at the end of the presentation. Okay, our first presentation is a preview of the region's draft tip amendment, the work program for the next 5 years. Again, Mr. Satorio, the new father, Metro Planner and the staff, will return again and give us a presentation on this. Mr. Satorio, you have our attention.
Thank you. Good morning again, everyone. This morning, I'll be presenting a preview of our fiscal year 2023-2024 to fiscal year 2027-28 Transportation Improvement Program. In your agenda packets, you will find a link to the draft document for your review. The new tip will be coming back during the June-July board and committee cycle as an action item. Start off with a little background regarding the tip. The purpose of the tip is to identify all federal and state funded transportation projects for the next 5 years. It includes locally funded projects and Central Florida Expressway projects for informational purposes and to show a complete picture of transportation related spending in the region. The tip is updated on an annual basis, consistent with the adopted project prioritized list, which was adopted in July of 2022. Projects in the tip are categorized into 11 sections. All 11 of these sections are listed on this slide. Overall, we have 427 projects within these 11 sections of the tip. And over the course of the presentation, I'm going to highlight just a few of those projects for you. In addition, as you might have noticed, this year's tip document looks a little bit different than in previous years. First off, we incorporated the new Metroplan Orlando branding into the document. In addition, we have refreshed the tip document to make it more visually appealing, easier to read, and user-friendly. Just for an example, we have an example project, and it shows the table and how all the funding is laid out. To start off with, we'll start off with National Highway System projects, which consist of projects on the Interstate Highway System, Strategic Intermodal System, and National Highway Freight Network. In our region, these projects are primarily on I-4. Over the past year, FDOT has come before us and given several presentations regarding progress along I-4. There are a total of 19 I-4 projects in the tip with an estimated $618 million in funding programmed. A few projects we would like to highlight include I-4 from east of County Road 522 to west of State Road 528, which has right-of-way funded in fiscal year 23-24 and fiscal year 2025-2026. In addition, a project that we've seen several presentations on, I-4 at Darrell Carter Parkway interchange. Construction is funded for this project in fiscal year 2024-2025. Next in Seminole County, we have I-4 from 1 mile east of State Road 434 to US 1792, which has right-of-way funded in fiscal year 2023-2024 and fiscal year 2024-2025, and has preliminary engineering funded in fiscal year 2024-2025. Finally, we have a truck parking site located in Seminole County, which has construction funded in fiscal year 2025-2026. State highway system projects consist of capacity improvement projects, complete streets, safety operations, and ITS investments on the state highway system. Within the TIP, we have a total of 39 projects with an estimated $460 million in funding. The first of these projects we'd like to highlight is State Road 50 from east of Old Cheney Highway to Chuliota Road. This project is going to add lanes and rehab the pavement and has construction funded for fiscal year 2025-2026. Additional construction for the next phase of this project from Chuliota Road to State Road 520 has construction funded program through fiscal year 2027-2028. Next project we would like to highlight is US 1792 from John Young Parkway to Pleasant Hills Road. This is an intersection improvement project. This project has right-of-way funding programmed in fiscal year 2024-2025 and fiscal year 2025-2026, and construction is funded in fiscal year 2026-2027. The last project we're going to highlight is State Road 436 from North Lake Boulevard to Boston Avenue. This is a pedestrian detection system or PedSafe project. And for this project, construction and operations funding is programmed in fiscal year 2023-2024. So complete streets projects consist of bicycle and pedestrian intersection improvement projects that improve safety and accessibility for all users. The TIP has a total of 7 Metro Plan Orlando funded complete streets projects with an estimated $24 million in funding. First of these projects we want to highlight is Edgewater Drive from Lakeview Street to Park Street. And this project has construction funded in fiscal year 2023-2024. Next project we would like to highlight is Buenaventura Boulevard from Simpson Road to Osceola Parkway. This project has construction funded in fiscal year 2024-2025. And the last of these projects is one that we recently saw a VHB presentation on behalf of the city of Castleberry. This is Winter Park Drive from Red Bug Lake Road to State Road 434. And this project has preliminary engineering funded in fiscal year 2025-2026. So TISMO projects consist of projects that use innovative strategies or leverage existing technology deployments to improve travel time reliability. Within the TIP, we have 16 Metro Plan Orlando funded TISMO projects with an estimated $24 million in funding. First of these projects we want to highlight is Orange County Traffic Signal Cabinet upgrades. This project will upgrade traffic control devices and systems at various locations throughout Orange County, and construction is funded in fiscal year 2024-2025. The second project we want to highlight is Marigold Avenue from San Lorenzo Road to Peabody Road in Osceola County. This is a roundabout project which will add roundabouts on Marigold Avenue at 4 locations: Peabody Road, Laurel Avenue, San Manuel Road, and San Lorenzo Road. And this project has construction funded in fiscal year 2024-2025. In addition, the TIP includes 3 new TISMO bundles for traffic operations improvements in the city of Orlando. The first of these bundles is Garland Avenue Bundle and Huey Avenue Bundle, which has preliminary engineering funded in fiscal year 2027-2028. The second bundle is West South Street and West Anderson Street, which has preliminary engineering funded in fiscal year 2027-2028. The final bundle is the Church Street Bundle, which has preliminary engineering funded in fiscal year 2025-2026. Our maintenance and fixed capital outlay section of the tip includes maintenance projects and fixed capital expenses designed to support, operate, and maintain the state highway system. This includes projects for safety, resurfacing, bridge, product support, operations and maintenance, and administration. The tip has a total of 68 projects in this section, with an estimated 75 million in funding. It should be noted that these totals do not include 3R resurfacing projects or bridge projects on the state highway list. The bicycle and pedestrian section of the tip includes standalone bicycle and pedestrian projects, including sidewalks and trails. The tip has a total of 22 Metro Plan Orlando funded projects with an estimated 46 million in funding. The first of these that we would like to highlight is Shingle Creek Trail, which has several phases funded. The first of these is a section from West Taft Road, from West Taft Vineland Road to State Road 528. The second is from State Road 528 to Destination Parkway. And we have from Old Winter Garden Road to Raleigh Street, and from Alhambra Drive to Old Winter Garden Road. Construction funding is programmed for 2 phases of the trail in fiscal year 2023-2024, and for 1 phase of the trail in fiscal year 2024-2025. Phase 4 of the trail has preliminary engineering funded in fiscal year 2025-2026, and construction funding programmed in fiscal year 2027-2028. And the next project we're going to highlight is the St. Cloud sidewalks improvements. These sidewalk improvements are to take place on Delaware Avenue, Vermont Avenue, and Columbia Avenue. Construction is funded in fiscal year 2023-2024. Finally, we have the Lake Monroe Loop Trail from Mellonville Avenue to State Road 415. This is going to be a bike path and trail, which has construction funded in fiscal year 2023-2024. Safe routes to school include sidewalk projects located within close proximity of a school. Our tip has 4 safe routes to school projects with an estimated 1.2 million in funding. Transit and commuter rail are 2 separate sections within the tip. The transit and transportation disadvantage section of the tip includes operations and capital funding for links. The tip includes an estimated 523 million in funding. The commuter rail section of the tip includes Sunrail projects. The tip includes an estimated 119 million in funding. As you can see, we have a lot of transportation projects going on in the region in the next 5 years. Now, not counting the local area projects, we have a total of 312 projects within the tip with an estimated 4.1 billion in funding. And the pie chart on the screen breaks down the funding by category section within the tip. So next steps, over the next few weeks, there are several steps to take prior to presenting the final iteration of the tip. Currently, the document is being reviewed by FDOT and agency partners. In addition, within the next few weeks, we'll have the Central Florida Expressway 5-year work plan, which we'll incorporate into the tip. And the final step will be to do an internal review of the document to make sure everything is ready for final iteration. In addition, we're going to be hosting a virtual tip public meeting on Wednesday, June 21st, and that is at 11:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. And this is going to be hosted on Zoom. And more information to come on this, keep an eye on our website for additional information. That concludes our presentation of the draft fiscal year 2023-24 to 27-28 tip. I would like you to open the floor to any questions.
Okay, that was a lot, but it's for 5 years, so it's expected to be a lot, right?
Yep.
Okay, we mentioned, as I mentioned earlier, we will be asked for our approval or a vote on this at our next meeting, okay? So let's send them away with whatever questions we may have so that we can have an answer before we come back to vote on this, okay? No hands up over here, so I'm gonna start over here and then we'll go around the room and then we'll come over here after that. Okay. Mr. Beagle, you're recognized.
Thank you, sir. Jason, first question, number one, love the diversity of the portfolio. Very, very excited to see that. But I actually had a question, I don't know why I'm getting a reverb, on, there's a DOT right-of-way project, and I think it might have been the very first project you mentioned.
Okay.
And I believe it's right-of-way acquisition from Osceola Parkway to 528 as part of I-4 Ultimate, beyond the Ultimate. And I guess when DOT's presented, that corridor to us before, there was still uncertainty about, if Sunshine Corridor was going to fit in there, was it going to fit in the median, was it going to fit on the side? And we're doing these temp lanes. And so, with that kind of being up in the air, I guess I'm surprised that we're moving forward with right of way, even though we haven't heard definitively, this is where the rail is going. So this is how much space we need versus no, the rail's over here. So we need this much space. And so I guess that putting it on here seems a little more definitive than I thought where we were at from a programming standpoint, at least what's been communicated to us. So some clarification there would be great on, are we buying what we absolutely need in the worst case scenario? Yeah. And then if we don't need it, we try to sell it back or use it for stormwater. So that would be one question I have. The other is the pie chart that you had at the end. If there's another way that we could get that, because the diversity is great, but it's also deceiving. Really, when you combine type of use, roadways is essentially 75% of that. The chart makes it look differently, but roadways specifically is 75% of the program. It's just the funding sources are different, but the use type is the same. So I think that would be something that I would request, is just be able to communicate from a community standpoint. This is how much is going to roadway stuff versus non-roadway activities. And as we build more roads, how do we make sure those don't continue to get squeezed and squeezed and squeezed?
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mine is on the truck stop on I-4 in Seminole County. That is desperately needed. I'm not going to dispute that. My concern is it needs to be designed so that it is ready to charge electric trucks, because by the time it's built, there's going to be a lot of electric trucks going through there. So what do you know about the charging stations at that stop?
I'm not going to put him on the spot for that one. DOT is designing that location as we speak. So we'll take your feedback about having adequate and the most proper chargers for that vehicle technology. We'll pass that on to DOT and the design team, but that decision hasn't been made yet, because again, design is kind of going on right now.
Yeah, and so my only comment to that is the same thing like with the electric cars and level 2 chargers or mega chargers. Don't even think about putting destination chargers at a rest area. These got to be 1 million or 2 million watts of charging. So the truck goes in, gets charged and leaves. Otherwise, 5 trucks sit there all night and the other 500 trucks are sitting, right? Let's not make the mistake of putting destination chargers in. They've got to be massive chargers, or don't bother.
Okay.
Good morning. Thank you for your presentation. I really like the improved graphics and the fact that the aspect ratio fits the screen. Oh, sorry. I really like the presentation. Thank you. And I really like the updated graphics and the fact that the aspect ratio fits the screen now, which is another sidebar. A quick question on your complete streets projects. The nature of those cycling improvements, apart from painted bike lanes, are there other improvements that are going in?
Yeah, so complete streets is every complete streets project goes through a unique concept development phase. So every single project that we have in there that's going into design had a planning concept study where they went in and explored the corridor, analyzed the corridor, and came up with a solution most appropriate for that corridor. Some corridors may have a wide bike lane, maybe a colored Kermit. Others may opt for a non-bike lane on facility to go for a side path or a shared use path off the roadway. So each project has a different design or a different cross section. to make it fit within what the community wants, but also in the geometric confines of the existing right of way. Because our Complete Streets funding program, we do not allow for right of way funds to advance those. So when we're doing those planning concept studies and we're going into that design phase, extra effort, extra attention is to keep us within the existing with existing public rights of way.
Thank you.
One in back. That's you okay?
Yep.
We'll leave this side and go to this side.
Y'all, I'm with Tom. On the truck facility in Seminole County. Jason, can you share about where that right of way is being acquired?
I believe so it's off I-4 slightly. And I know off the top of my head, one of the cross streets is at least Schoolhouse Road in Sanford.
Okay.
I don't know the other cross street though. I think it's. Sorry.
US 1792 Monroe and Street. Right now, there is an RV dealership there, Kangaroo Express, kind of a blighted Kangaroo Express. Have been there
Right.
for a long time. They're going to be taking all of those parcels on that corner there to accommodate the new truck park.
Thanks, Alex. So it's highly unusual for me to support any kind of right-of-way acquisition for just trucks specifically, but obviously there's a huge need in the community. We've heard over years and years of commissioners asking for this. So it's great to see that it's moving forward, but I'm definitely with Tom in terms of the future of this right-of-way acquisition, of what this facility needs, of how it supports the economy of Florida and getting trucks moving and what the future of trucks looks like. So I'm definitely with Tom on electrification and what that looks like. And hopefully DOT takes that back and makes this a future ready project. I had another comment about the Complete Streets program, specifically Edgewater Drive. I feel like Edgewater Drive has been raised up in Orlando as a complete street success. It's not perfect, but I had questions about doing another Complete Streets project on Edgewater Drive now. Can you speak a little bit more about how much money is going into this project and who the funding partners are?
Let me see if I have that in front of me. It's actually in the tip. That's the link.
I try to click it. It's not.
Okay. I can get that information to you after the meeting then.
Yeah. I think it's just, if it's the city of Orlando's money, I think that makes sense. They can prioritize this project, but if the MPO is putting in money, I just feel like there's other places in our region that deserve Complete Streets design and construction. Not that Edgewater doesn't, I don't know who from the city of Orlando is here, but I just feel like there's other needs across the region. Alex, hello, welcome back.
I'm here with the answers. I just want to make sure you leave clear with the information. That is a federally funded priority in our adopted 2045 plan on the prioritized project list, and that's why you're seeing the construction in there. So it is majority of the funds are our federal urban funds, whether it's our SU funds or advanced construction SU funds, but majority of the funding is a federally funded project. And this one's been on our books for quite some time now.
Heard, understood. And then I just want to give kudos to MetroPlan. There's $46 million for bike and pedestrian projects, 22 projects. I think I'm just with Mr. Pigram in terms of the diversity of the portfolio. Great point though. Oh, he's not here, about the pie chart. It is a little bit misleading on how much are being spent on highways and roads versus other projects, but really appreciate that our MPO staff really listened to our desire for more safety projects and supporting more road users.
Okay.
Thank you. So have we made the decision to compete with private charging?
Thank you. Have we made the decision we're competing with private industry? We're putting in charging stations, which are assuming we go all electric trucks, will essentially just eliminate the current facilities that sell food and showers, and we're just going to replace private industry with a state-run parking facility.
that a question or a
No,
statement?
it's an observation.
Okay.
I'm sorry to keep jumping up, but I just want to speak to that one because the Seminole County or the Central Florida truck parking challenge is very unique compared to other areas in the state where you have the Busy Bees, the Loves, the Travel Americas galore, where they're ready and willing, kind of jumping at the bit to come into the region. DOT has kind of has had those discussions with those, and based on the economics of their business model, which is primarily selling fuel, there's really not an interest for them at this time. I know DOT has been working on this particular one for about 10 years now. So that the site that they're looking at in Seminole County is really just a truck parking site, very little amenities. So, and it will be free. A lot of the Travel America's Loves, Busy Bees, they're offering free truck parking as well. But it's because you're going in and, buying diesel and the other amenities. This is to solve the critical truck parking need on the I-4 corridor specifically, but different than, I will say, the commercialized truck rest stops of the interstates.
Okay, and I have no problem with the parking portion of it. But if we're going to start providing electricity, unless it's just going to be bid out to private industry, like the turnpike truck stops are, I'm just not in favor of the state competing with private industry.
I guess it's possible. I don't know how we provide trucking if we not have. It's going to. We have to have.
But doesn't that argument 100 years ago look exactly the same when the trucks were coming on burning gas and diesel?
Not sure about 100 years ago.
75 years ago?
Hi, thank you. Can you go back to the Shingle Creek bike trail slides real quick? I just want to clarify, because I was part of these discussions nearly a decade ago, so I'm glad to see it moving forward. Was this all Orange County side of Shingle Creek? Is that what's being funded here? And I guess my question is, part of these this funding, is that completing the trail crossing over Osceola Parkway to connect where it dead ends currently on the Osceola side? Do you know if that's part of that, what's being funded there?
To start off, the first part of your question, so Orange County has 3 of these trail sections, and one of those sections is maintained by City of Orlando, I believe. It's the Kirkman one. And then the second part of your question, let me see. So we have from West Tap Island Road to State Road 528 to Destination Parkway, Old Winter Garden Road to Raleigh Street, and then from Alejandro Drive to Old Winter Garden Road. When we come back next time, I can provide a visual.
Yeah,
of
thank you.
that, or a couple of visuals since they're in sections.
Because as far as I know, and I was on the Osceola part of this discussion, I believe Osceola County sort of gotten to their limit of where they're taking the trail. So I think they're relying on Orange County to partner on making the connection, which includes a bridgeway over Osceola County, the Osceola Parkway. So I was just wondering, it sounds like that's going north. So I'm just wondering if there was any updates on the southern part of that connection. So anyway, but thank you.
I have a little bit of familiarity because we bid the clearing on a couple of these portions. These are all Orange County.
Yeah. So I'm going north. Okay.
Correct. Yeah.
I was actually the planner whenever we were submitting these projects on the Shingle Creek. It was for Osceola County side, and is a good I told you so moment. Years ago, we got $3 million, City of Orlando, $3 million for Orange County, $3 million for Kissimmee, and $3 million for Osceola County. We basically all kind of pooled our resources to put this regional trail together. At that time, I specifically noted the Osceola, Parkway, problem of getting over Osceola Parkway. And I noted that the turnstile at the Osceola Parkway, just a little to the east, was the old school, where you go on 25 miles an hour before you continue on at speed. I said at that time, if we if they ever retrofit that facility on Osceola Parkway, they could combine it for the benefit of both, so that way the local municipality can offset some of their costs to get over the parkway while the expressway, Osceola Parkway, Expressway Authority, whatever they call themselves now, that helps offset some of their costs as well. Plus, it's a big green facility. I don't know. I do know that they are now in the process of creating that new facility there. I haven't heard anything about the trail going up and over, but I think it's a lost opportunity. And I think we're going to foot the bill for now. We're going to build a big crossover there. Plus, they're going to have a whole facility at the same time. Doesn't make any sense. So it just for all it's worth.
And the trail on the south side of Osceola Parkway does not line up with that. It's west of it.
Again, the whole "I told you so" thing. I just will let you know, anybody that ever enrolls in my classes at UCF, I actually have a great video series on this same thing, saying this is fiscal management accountability, and
What not to do.
what not to do.
Joel, I just want you to know, I wholeheartedly agree with you. Government should not compete with private business. The piece I want you to start understanding, and I know this sounds ludicrous, unbelievable and everything else, by the time this is built, there's not going to be any drivers in those electric trucks. So they're not buying snacks and food and everything else. There's no one there.
Thank you. Jason, you're doing a good job. I don't expect you to have an answer for my question here. This is something that you're going to have to go back to the DOT and maybe get a little bit more in depth. This is to do with the proposed truck stop. And I'm familiar with that interchange, that area. I used to come home that way and kind of deprogram myself from work and et cetera. And that's the question, is the department planning on upgrading that interchange, given so many trucks may be coming southbound off and going northbound on? And there is also around Lake Monroe a lovely bike trail, and what the impact to that might be in the grand scheme of things. So I see it's great that they've proposed to have it in this area, but I see the conflicts that will arise in the future, 10 or 15 years down the road, whenever it actually comes to fruition. I had another question, it's probably not important, was just a comment about the electric charging stations. We have to consider the economic, trucks sitting there idling for a long period of time, trying to charge up to what it needs to be versus a high energy charging. And I don't know all the technology on that, but it's about economics. You want a high speed charger. There's those trucks get back out on the road and onto where they need to be. That was just a comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I actually wanted to just circle back on the last time truck parking, I believe, came and presented to us. One of the things we discussed as a committee, and I don't know that we brought it to an actual vote, is that we did informally ask the DOT to evaluate private-public partnerships, meaning we said there were specific malls through the I-4 corridor, Altamont Springs, Seminole, Millennia, that these malls are not being used overnight. And if the right-of-way constrains them from using it for truck parking, could there be a public-private partnership with those entities to use that space and the electrical infrastructure that's readily available there? But
Okay, I'm sorry. I was part of the consultant study team, and they did explore all of those. The malls had no interest, it's kind of a sign of saying we've given up, kind of letting the trucks come in Sanford. So they did explore that concept of operation and was taken off the table. They looked at a lot of other best practice, public-private partnership, long lease opportunity, land lease solutions. And they've come to the solution they have now, which is the one that actually can be operational and serve the critical need as soon as possible. So I know they went through the full litany of opportunities and this is kind of where they've landed for now.
Okay, lastly, right here.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And sorry if I missed this, but if I guess as a suggestion, for each initiative, if there could be a measure of success or maybe a KPI, whether that's monetary or moral, just to kind of put everything in perspective of here's what we're expecting, here's where we are now, here's what we're expecting in the future, or whether that's 2 or 3 years. So monetary or financial, or both, if that could work.
Okay.
Thank you.
You did great.
Thank you.
You getting to sleep at night as a new father?
A little bit, not very much. Not last
Okay,
night.
if you could just pull those things together.
Yeah.
You're up
anyway.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Great
you.
job. Okay, next, we have a presentation from Mr. Slade Downs of Metro Plan Orlando, who will provide a preview of the 2028 to 2038 prioritized projects list. Mr. Downs, the floor is yours.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. For the record, Slade Downs, Metro Plan Orlando staff. I'll be walking you guys through the preview of our annual prioritized project list update. So starting off with background, let's talk a little bit about Metro Plan Orlando's core products. The MTP is our 25-year plan. That's the Metropolitan Transportation Plan. It gets updated every 5 years, and the TIP, the Transportation Improvement Program, is updated every year. And I know you all just had a very thorough deep dive on that, so I won't touch on that too much. But I bring both of those up because the prioritized project list kind of serves as a bridge between the two core plans. It looks at the first 10 years of the MTP, and whereas the TIP kind of gives a very close-up view of individual projects, this is kind of, the PPL is more of a 10,000-foot idea of what we expect to be able to program in the next 10 years following the TIP. So the PPL is updated annually, and you're all getting a preview of that process, just so you can have a chance to comment and provide your weigh-in. This is the preview. Will, just like the TIP, will be coming back at the next meeting for a request for recommendation. So tell you a bit about our approach. The PPL stays consistent with the MTP, where we've already established needs, cost feasibility, cost forecasts. The PPL ultimately follows board direction and policy, and the general performance-based process and the prioritization is very well documented in the PPL itself. There should be a link in the agenda packets. If you go to supplement B, you can get the full breakdown on the methodologies there. And kind of the bottom line is the goal of the PPL is to advance high quality transportation improvement projects within our region. So some things to keep in mind: certain funding sources come with strings attached. So some projects may be eligible for certain funding sources where they may not be eligible for others, depending on those strings. We've already made sure that the projects are cost feasible within the MTP, but the availability of funds and the readiness of each project phase is kind of where we get into the real action of the PPL. Project phase, meaning just design and engineering or right-of-way acquisition, construction, so on and so forth. So this chart here is pulled directly from the MTP with just a couple of color changes for our new branding and graphics update. Each of these funding programs comes with
a one sheet here. There's a summary in the PPL itself. And I'll be giving you a quick run through of each of those in just a second, and announcing the page numbers. So if you'd like to take a look at those. And also I wanted to point out a couple of these have asterisks. That just means that the priority lists themselves are still under development. For example, the countywide ITS improvements and the ACEs demonstrations there at the bottom of the slide. Those recommendation lists are going to be populated once the TISMO master plan is fully completed, and that should be towards the end of this year. All right, so to kick off our project lists, we have the interstate highway system and strategic intermodal system. These are cost feasible projects coordinated with FDOT, and we include this list to stay consistent with their plans. First off, we have these two truck parking locations, which are kind of the sister projects to the Seminole County project that we were just talking about with Jason earlier. Additionally, most of the other projects are just further build outs of I-4 Ultimate and Beyond the Ultimate. You can find the one sheet for this program in page 12 of the PPL and the detailed list table on page 25. Next up, we have state roads and state highway system. These are just the key priorities for our state roads, in addition to phases already programmed into the TIP. So some of these projects have a current phase that is funded in the TIP, and then the next phase is a bit further down the line, and that's why you're seeing it in the PPL. You can find the one sheet for this on page 13 and the detailed table on page 27. Next up, we have off-system construction assistance and the TRIP program. These are projects of regional significance that are not part of the state highway system. They are listed in the PPL, but they are not ranked because one of the key caveats of this program is local agency readiness. So local agencies are required to put forth funding for preliminary phases consistent with federal processes and protocols. And local agencies are required to have 50% of construction costs committed to qualify. So that's why I always include that bit about project readiness. You can find the one page for this on page 14 of the draft PPL and the detailed tables on page 33. Next, we have complete streets and context-sensitive improvements. This and the next few lists are funded with urban area funds. That just means that they are allocated at the discretion of the protocols approved by MetroPlan Orlando's board directly. These lists are where we direct FDOT on which projects and project phases to move those funds and move forward, essentially. You can find the one sheet for this program on page 15 and the detailed table on page 34. And I should note that there is a slight alteration to the one sheet there. We have a POPCA project on Old Dixie Highway that's on the one sheet that we've already received some feedback from our local technical partner in Apopka. We've removed that, and when we come back at the next meeting, it will not be on the one sheet. So the feedback is already underway. Next up, we have TISMO, corridors and intersections. These are kind of our technology and ITS programs and projects. You can find the one sheet on page 17 and the detailed table on page 36. And also, I just wanted to touch some of these, like I know Jason was just speaking to some of these bundles in the tip update or the tip. And the design phase is what he was referring to. And then this is just further down the road as the construction phase for the ones listed on the screen here, at least. Next up, we have pedestrian bicycle infrastructure projects. We have two projects. We have a construction on West Orange Trail as well as design for a separate phase, the West Orange Trail. We've designed for 3 different phases of the Shingle Creek Trail. So Dr. Stevens, some of the portions of the trail that you were speaking to are up here. So they are on our radar. Just wanted to point that out. And you can find the project page for this on page 20 and the detailed table lists on page 39. Next up, we have school mobility and safe routes to school. Safe routes to school is an FDOT program, but we include the priorities in order to stay consistent with FDOT on these areas. You can find more about that on page 21 and the detailed table on page 41. Next, we have critical sidewalk gap bundles. At the last technical advisory committee meeting, I gave a kind of full rundown on that program, but just to give you a 1-sentence fire round refresher, we took the weighting criteria and scoring criteria methodology that was created by the Vulnerable Users Working Group, applied it through GIS analysis, and these are the top bundles identified. You can find the one sheet for this program on page 22 and the detailed table lists on page 42. And on those detailed tables for this program specifically, we've broken each bundle out into its individual segments so you can get an idea of where exactly those are rather than just kind of the general description. And finally, last but certainly not least, we have regional transit projects. Our key priorities here are Sunrail Phase 3, the connection to Orlando International Airport, Link's Southern Operations and Maintenance Facility, Link's Northern Base, a couple of Sunrail Station parking lot expansions, and general expansion enhancement of Link's bus services. You can find the full page rundown of this on page 23 and the detailed table on page 51. So that brings us to next steps. What's next in this process? So I will keep running the PPL update show at the other advisory committees and then the Metro Plan Orlando board. Once we incorporate our feedback from that process, we'll come back to you and all of the other committees to give you the final draft of the PPL. And hopefully you can provide us with a recommendation to the board for formal adoption of that final draft. And that final board action date will be July 12th. So thank you all for listening. With that, I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Downs. So both of these presentations are coming back to us for our recommendation at our next meeting. I'm going to thank you for giving us the reference points to take a look at all those different things. I would suggest we all take a look at the links that are attached in our agenda packets. They were too large to print out. So if we can just take the time and go back and take a look at those, that may help us a lot with this process. Okay. Okay. Questions? Oh,
ladies first, or
well, you know what? We're going to start over here. Miss Ma, you're first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Great presentation, Mr. Downs. I have, I appreciate the thoroughness of your report. I appreciate the breakdown for the considerations, the detail with the key priorities and things like that. So that was great. I'm just wondering, were there any eye raisers from your perspective that we should pay attention to as a committee? And if so, why?
far as eye raisers, I wouldn't say so, just
Okay.
because these are all projects that have been identified in that 25-year MTP. So we really have incorporated, we've pulled from that list, so they've at least been on our radar, and I'm sure not everyone in the room was here during the creation and presentation of that. I certainly wasn't, but as far as eye raisers, no, none that come to mind.
Thank you. That concludes my question, Mr.
Thank you,
Chair.
Ms. Meyer.
Sure.
Mr. Davis, you're recognized.
I'm sorry, that was still sitting up from
Okay.
earlier.
Mr. Medina, you okay? Any questions? Mr. Sabila, you good? Dr. Stevens, you're recognized.
Dr. Stevens, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Great presentation, Slade. You did awesome.
Thank you.
Just one quick observation. The critical sidewalk gaps, bundle one is Rio Grande in Texas. Now I realize this is a funding partner issue. This isn't, specific to you, but I know that intersection was just improved like within the last, 3 years? And I'm wondering why is the sidewalk gap a critical gap project? Why wasn't that taken care of back then? Why is it, sucking more money out of, the pool of money? I guess, can you speak to that? Is it just like a timing thing? Was that the plan all along? Or do you know how they work these projects?
To that specific project, I can't really speak on that project specifically. I can say that the methodology to get to this ranked list of sidewalk bundle projects was pretty extensive and went through kind of a lot of thought and back and forth with the vulnerable users working group. And based on that methodology that they put together, we just applied it outright rather than kind of try and take it into consideration some of those things. Once we get into kind of the more boots on the ground, looking at pouring concrete, that sort of thing, I'm sure those sort of considerations will start to factor in a bit more.
I understand. And just give you a general overview. We're talking about connecting, the Orange Blossom Trail over Holden, and it just plowed right through, a wooded area to connect out with Mall Millennia and Costco. So, the roadway was certainly warranted, but what you find along there is a lot of multifamily, apartments and things like that. It's heavily trafficked. Used. Thank you. Word choice. A lot of pedestrians around in that area. And that's why I was curious as to why that wasn't factored in to their original plan. I mean, they were already out there building this big roadway. And all of a sudden they're back, asking for money. I just wasn't sure if that was part of the process or if this is this was revealed after the fact or something.
Okay, so definitely something to keep in mind.
Mr. Pegram, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. I wanted to kind of build on Ms. Mott's question a little differently. Are there outside influences that have influenced the prioritized project list, meaning like the bipartisan infrastructure law that was passed, where there are certain allotments for certain specific types and modes of transportation where, well, yes, links is a high priority, but in terms of the funding that's available within the next X amount of years, we want to make sure that this, because we think this bigger pot of money we can chase, is any of those legislative influence the priorities project list based on, what the governor may allot or what may change at a federal level?
I'll let Alex take over for that one.
Yeah, the priorities that you see here are specific to the formula funds that we receive as a metropolitan planning organization. So our SU funds, our urban funds, which are most flexible. We have carbon reduction funds, which are new to the federal, to the IIJA, the new bipartisan infrastructure law. Those have to be spent to improve carbon, to remove carbon. So it's really a focus on transit, focus on bike ped and trails where we have to spend those targeted funds. And then we're going to continue to receive we call our transportation alternative funds. And those are the funds that Metro Plan Orlando spends on complete streets projects as well as sidewalk and trail improvements. So those are the formula-based funds that you'll see in our priority list and then also roll into the TIP. IIJ also has provided the new bipartisan infrastructure law, federal infrastructure law has offered a lot of discretionary grant opportunities. And that's probably where there's more opportunity, more so than the formula-based funds that we have. So we're monitoring those NOFAs very closely to see where we're eligible, where our partners are eligible, and where we can pursue those discretionary funds. It's not, those discretionary funds aren't free. You know, there's a lot of benefit cost analyses. You know, locals have to spend $50,000 to $100,000 to vie for some of these applications. So those are something that we're really mindful of as staff, is we're looking, how would we compete? You know, how do we, you know, into the different programs? A lot of the new federal programs, the criteria is very specific. So, you know, going into the application, how you would fare objectively. So that's kind of, we're considering that. But those are kind of one-off projects. But I will say these priorities that we have here and that you'll see in the TIP do include the new funds from the bipartisan infrastructure law. But as I've presented in the past, we're seeing such great inflation. For every dollar that we receive, we have less spending power than we had before. So it's good news that we have additional funds. So it's helping us a little bit, you know, in kind of keeping the work program stabilized. But it's not the shine, the gloss that we saw 2 years ago when we thought we were going to be receiving 20% extra federal funds. You know, that's really just kind of going to kind of fill the holes in the cost overages that we've experienced over the past 18 months. So
That's a good explanation. Mr. Hammond.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Downs, I just want to give you a heads up that I will be voting against any regional transportation project. Those are so far out in the future that there will be millions of robo taxis and robo buses driving around that will cost per passenger 1/10 or 1/100th of what those regional transportation projects will cost. It's ludicrous for us to continue down that path. And I've been trying for years to get this organization to pivot to what's absolutely in the near future and start planning on for what's actually going to happen. Thank you.
Vincent.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Another question about the, I guess, decision-making process on prioritizing the different projects. I imagine there's a coalition that maybe have colleagues in another metropolitan city, not sure if it's Atlanta or some other area, where you're sharing best practices and arriving to the decisions are kind of supported through peer-to-peer review, or maybe you're benchmarking into other cities that may have had similar issues that they're trying to tackle. So just curious if there's some insight on the decision-making process of any type of consultation with other cities.
I'm not on the agenda, but I found myself at the podium a lot today. So when we developed the prioritization criteria for the 2040 long-range plan and metropolitan plan, we did kind of a state of the practice, looked at how others are prioritizing projects, you know, and we developed the criteria that you see in the back of the prioritized project list, or at least it was adapted for purposes of annual reprioritization. I sit actually on a national board, Transportation Research Board's Transportation Policy and Process. So I'm sitting with kind of my counterparts at other NPOs, state governments, kind of around the United States and globally, kind of talking about kind of the topics that we're discussing here. What's the best way to, you know, to analyze, you know, apples versus oranges versus kind of, you know, fruits and vegetables of all types. So we've considered that, and kind of my kind of reflection on this, there's no perfect prioritization process. It's developing a process that aligns with our goals and objectives and that our decision makers are comfortable with. And as staff, we look at it as, is it replicable? Is it objective? And is it comprehensive? And if we can meet those three factors, that's kind of what we use as our kind of rubric as staff, knowing that our decision makers as you as advisors provide that discretion to our process. So what you'll see in the back is a very data-driven prioritization process, which allows us to kind of take away the politics off the projects and really just focus on the issues at hand.
Okay.
Well, that concludes our two presentations. Again, I would suggest we go and take a look at the links that contain so much of the data that's in there. And we'll also wait for all the responses that we've requested so that we can be ready for this at our next meeting. Okay, our next in-person CAC meeting will be on June 28th. And the CAC meeting dates through the rest of the year are listed in your agenda packets. Please remember to RSVP. It's very critical, so we don't sit here sweating and trying to wonder if we're going to have a quorum for the meeting. The next Metro Plan Orlando Board meeting will be June 14th. At this time, do we have any member comments? Oh. Okay, Mr. Davis, here stood up.
Either way, I just wanted to touch base. The representative would like to put together a transportation summit in Osceola County. As part of that, we want to invite Metro Plan. I probably need to go to the main board and bring this up, or even better, she probably needs to, but just to bring it up. And we don't have a date yet, but we're trying to bring everybody down there and
Bring
get
it
the city
forward,
and
and I
county
think it'll-
leaders and help update everybody and see where everybody's headed.
Okay. Mr. Peter.
Thank you, Chair. I actually just wanted to take a moment to recognize the Chair, Vice Chair, Marianne, and the entire Metro Plan staff. I recently had the time I set aside to watch the TAC and MAC videos for their meetings, the other kind of parallel committees to our group here. And if you go on YouTube and find those, you'll find them significantly shorter than this meeting. And so I wanted to just recognize briefly the way that you have run the meetings, Chair, that we have such diversity in our passions here, whether it's strategy and objectives, whether it's quality, whether it's technology, whether it's safety. And so the fact that you're able to manage all those passions in this room, and yet you're able to do it constructively, and you're able to do it in a manner that's proactive. I just wanted to recognize that in the whole Metro Plan staff for hearing all those things and making the time that we can provide that on behalf of our community.
Thank you, Mr. Peter. Thank you very much. I've often taken to the board the passion of our group and the diversity of our group. Okay. All right. Okay, we've now come to the second public comment period. Oh, did I miss one? Okay, I'm sorry.
One, is the 429 Western Beltway extension at I-4 open? Does anybody know?
I'm not sure.
Up in
Did anyone-
Stanford. It did open. So the entire Beltway is now complete. Is that a true statement?
Can someone add to that? Do you know, Alex, if that's something?
Not believe the entire Beltway. All right, because I was coming home from Houston Myrtle Beach and I saw the exit was open. And I wasn't sure if you could take that Western Beltway all the way down into Windermere, Winter Garden, Ocoee. And I was just curious about that.
I came through the area Sunday and I didn't see anything that said that it was, so
Okay.
I'm not sure.
And then my next question is the express lanes between Orlando and Tampa. Is that on a 5-year, 10-year, 15-year timeline?
To prepare them, to have them ready?
Yes.
Okay, can you add to that, Alex?
Or Mr. Scarf is here from the FDOT.
I was just curious if anybody knew that. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Of the timeline. Okay, thank you. Pray there's an announcement by Governor DeSantis on the 14th.
Okay. You got an announcement today too, then. Okay. All right. Did you have something?
Just a comment. Why are we still building roads? Please, let's take this money, this millions and billions of dollars that we're spending building and 429 is already being widened. It's insane. It's the insanity of it all. Why are we dumping more money into roads and not doing mass transit? That's my comment.
Okay. Just to follow up to what Mr. Pegram has shared, if you haven't had a chance to watch the actual board meetings and some of the other committee meetings, take a little time and just watch. The process actually comes together. I mean, the things that happen here get summarized, the questions, they get taken forward, and there's responses to those, and we try and bring that back to you. So there's a process, there's a method to I didn't say that.
System. System.
Okay. Okay, we have now come to the second public comment period. If any members of the public wish to comment and are joining us virtually, please use the raise hand function and you will be recognized. Or dial *9 on your phone keypad. We will send you a prompt to unmute your microphone. After you are recognized, please state your name and address for the record and limit your comments to 2 minutes. Do we have anyone joining us virtually?
We do not have any hands raised on the virtual side, and I have not received any in-person speaker cards.
Okay. Do we have any members from the public here attending today that would like to make a comment?
No, sir, we don't.
Okay. Were there any comments submitted before the meeting?
No, Mr. Chair, there were no comments submitted in writing before this meeting.
Very good. Okay, as usual, I want to say thank you to our presenters, Mr. Satorio, Mr. Downs, to the staff here at Metro Plan, our liaison, Ms. Mary Ann Horn, and all the support team that helps us bring this meeting to fruition. And also, of course, thank you to all of you for being here and giving us your most precious asset, your time. Okay, with that, if we have no further business, I will say that we are adjourned.
All right. Good.
We got our